And I'm going to go over a quick outline of what we're going to talk about today. Yeah, I'm going to try to keep it to just 45 minutes, and it's going to be about 25 minutes of instruction, 15 minutes of Q&A. Most important part, I want to hear from all of you guys. What are your questions? And you can even get off mute and voice your questions and all that. And then at the end, we have a short conclusion. But I'm very passionate about budgeting. I'm a financial coach. I'm Sandra Park. I think we all kind of know each other in some sense. I'm very active on LinkedIn. I'm trying to get myself out there on YouTube much more now. But let's talk about why it's important to budget. To me, I think it's so important to budget because I don't want to sell you just on like budgeting is the thing to do, right? Because we all know it's a good, healthy thing to do. But the deeper reason is why should you even do this, right? And just to give you some context, I used to live paycheck to paycheck. I used to have overdraft fees. There were times I borrowed money from family and friends. I remember borrowing money from another broke college student in college to buy my first laptop, which to me seems ridiculous now. But just to give you some context of where I started from, where I've been, I've certainly never been perfect with money. And even some of these times I'm talking about when I felt paycheck to paycheck, this was when I was close to making $100,000 a year. I was doing relatively well in my engineering career, climbing the corporate ladder, yet still at the end of every month, I wasn't making any traction. I wasn't making any progress. Fast forward to now, I'm a baby steps millionaire, which means I'm a net worth millionaire, including house and investments. I've been budgeting and investing for years. I took a financial class back in 2016 that kickstarted all that called Financial Peace University. I'm a financial coach. I'm building a business that I kind of call a passion business. Even though I've been an engineer for 20 years, and that is a big part of my life and a big chapter and how I built a lot of wealth, in this other phase of life now, I want to move more into this impact and purpose and how can I help other people? And I look back and I think, oh, what if I knew some of this financial stuff earlier? What if someone had guided me? And this is why I'm so passionate about talking about this. But to me, budgeting is the 1% shift that anyone, everyone can and should make, and this will change the whole trajectory of your finances. And when I talk about finances, finances touch everything in your life. So literally when I say that, this is the 1% shift that could change the trajectory of your entire life. I tell people, if there's nothing else that you do with your finances, if all you did was master budgeting, then we would all be on this different trajectory in our lives. I've seen it in my own life. I'm sure Kimberly has seen it herself too, where the rest of the stuff will fall into place. You'll start saving money, you'll start investing, but if you don't budget, you don't have any money to save or invest or any of that. And I want to throw something in there in the chat to kind of illustrate this. So really simple equation. I think 3 out of the 4 of us here are engineers. Okay. If we look at this, income minus expenses equal margin. So there's really 2 levers in your finances, right? There's income, which is the money you have coming in. And even if you're not working a whole lot, when I say income, any money coming in, this could be money coming in from family, it could be child support, alimony, it could be, money from a loan that someone's paying you back. Income is any money coming into you each month, right? And your expenses is all the outgo, everything going out. This is not just bills. This is not just subscriptions. This is food. I call it, there's the cost of living. People spend money every single day, whether it's money coming out of their wallet or not. The food you eat, there's a cost to that. You need to drive places. You have to put gas in your car. You need a car to drive. You have to think about all these things. You need car insurance for the car. Transportation is a basic need. So don't forget that you need to account for every single expense going out in your life. So when you go income minus expenses, what you have left is margin. And this is why budgeting is so crucial. So I would like to also reframe budgeting from something restrictive. Budgeting is a plan for your money. So it's a plan for all this income coming in, and it's a plan for how you want this expenses and outgo to go out. And what's left and remaining is margin. And the reason why margin is so critical and so crucial is that's where you can save some money. That's where you're throwing extra money at credit card debt. This is how you save up for vacations with that margin. The margin is where you can pay off a house early or save up for a house down payment. What are some type of things that you would do if you had some extra money in your monthly budget every single month? You can shout them out or put them in the chat. Oh, investing. Yeah. And that's where that comes from, because you can't truly invest until you have a good financial foundation and you have all your expenses and your four walls and everything taken care of. It only comes out of that little bit of excess, that margin, right?
I would say for travel.
Yeah, that's another good one too. Yeah, yeah. I have an ongoing travel sinking fund, and that this is how I travel debt free now. I don't travel with putting everything on credit cards. It's a big mindset set shift for me to saving up the money and then planning the vacations and then coming back from the vacation with everything is all paid for and taken care of and you no credit card debt. Okay, so start thinking along those lines, but yeah, just to break it down very simply, a budget is your income minus expenses, and it's that margin that's really what's fun about money and life, and we're talking about all these things you could do with a potential margin. When you don't have any margin, when it's zero or you're in the negative, you can read all the books and you can do all the budgeting and you can, buy all the fancy software and apps. It just the numbers are you don't have anything left, right? And let's say you were in that situation, there's a couple of levers to pull. You either decrease expenses or you increase income. But the budgeting piece is how you know what your income, expenses, and margin are. And that's how you can create this life that you want with money working for you instead of you just working to pay all these bills, all your expenses coming out every month, zero or negative or whatever your situation is. Okay, and I like to talk about the three pillars of budgeting. So very simply, budgeting to me, there's three parts of it. I know it sounds really basic, but it just seems like everyone sometimes has a different conception of what budgeting is. And some people think budgeting is just creating a plan. And that is one of the pillars to me. It's creating a plan. So, I'm going to put in the chat, create a budget. That's one very critical part. And I think that's what most people associate with the word budgeting. And of course, this is very important. So this is your written plan on paper for all your money before the month begins. So this is listing all your income sources, all your expenses, all your daily spending and all that, and figuring out what's left over if you have any left over. Hopefully you do have a little bit of margin, right? That's where you can have some fun in life. It's very important to just be intentional. Your budget that you look at throughout the month helps you decide how to spend your money, right? So you're not just having your money sitting in your bank account. You're not reacting emotionally to things. You're not just excessively spending and have no awareness or control over it. You have this plan on paper for where your money's going. Okay, and the second part that I think is also just as critical that a lot of people sometimes maybe don't always do, you have to track your expenses, right? So you can create this plan on paper before the month begins, but without the tracking, how do you know if you're actually sticking to your budget, right? So, you can have this intention of you want to spend $400 in groceries for the month, but if you don't know how much you've spent in groceries, and let's say you get to week 4, it's the end of the month, and you spent $600, and now technically you're over budget in your grocery category. This is where people beat themselves up and get upset and say that budgeting doesn't work. And it's not that budgeting doesn't work, it's just throughout the month, they should have been tracking how much they're spending at the grocery store. So let's say perhaps, same example, $400 a month on groceries. You're in week 2, halfway through the month. So ideally, you should have spent $200 by then. That's a good guideline, right? If you spent less, the next grocery trip, you can buy some more stuff. Maybe you see sale on meat or something, you want to stock up a little more. If you are less than the halfway mark, less than $200, this is where you can maybe adjust and you're like, okay, the next grocery trip is a smaller one, or I'm going to have to get more creative and look in the pantry. Or you can also decide within your budget to pull money from other categories. So, but the whole point is you're deciding, you're making intentional decisions. You're not waiting till the end of the month and beating yourself up for going over it. And then the big third piece I talk about is reflection. Reflection. So I'm talking about throughout the week, reflecting on how your spending is going and tracking how it's aligning with your budget. At the end of the month, I would also take time to reflect, is the budget you made realistic? Are the spending categories, the amounts real, amounts and categories that you can actually stick to? This is important because I think a lot of people, sometimes they do the first part and the second part, they create the budget, they track the expenses, but you actually have to reflect on, is this budget working for you? And it can take up to 3 months to get a realistic working budget. Every single month is different. There's no way to make a cookie cutter budget because your life changes every single month. People drop into town or Christmas happens, and your budget is like this living, breathing plan, a document, something to help you guide how you spend your money. But yes, I'd like to hear from some of y'all. Have any of y'all ever tried budgeting at all? Even if you failed at it, have you ever attempted it? Or anyone want to share their experiences around budgeting? Okay, well, I'll go. I'll share my personal experience. I will have to admit, it was hard. It was really, really hard to figure it out. Um, Despite taking that financial class that I mentioned to you guys, Financial Peace University, back in 2016, when I went to the class and they talked about the budgeting and they had the budgeting template, I filled it out and then I'm like, oh, like my whole life didn't transform or change. Like, I don't get it. What's the difference? All I did was I just created the budget. I didn't really understand the transformative power of tracking expenses, reflecting, actually doing the budget actively every month. You can't just do a budget one time on paper and that's, like the end of it, right? And I didn't understand that that wasn't really what budgeting was. And then when I actually started trying to do the budgeting, I found it was way harder than I thought. I thought it was like this simple math and all that, and it just got overwhelming very quickly. And despite being, a college educated engineer and taking all this complex mathematics, I still struggled with doing a budget for quite a while. And let's talk about some of the reasons why sometimes people fail with budgeting too. Because I know I broke it down. It sounds so easy and simple, and it can be, but it's also and it's not even discipline. It's about creating these habits and doing it all the time. Because like I said, that time I did it in the class, I thought, oh, I did it, and I did it one time, and nothing happened. I don't get it. Nothing really changed in my life. But it's about doing it over and over, reviewing it, making it a part of your daily life. Like right now at this point, I budget every single day, but because I've been doing it for so long, it takes me like 5 minutes, right? It's very simple. But in the beginning, it can take some people I mean, honestly, hours, or they're gonna feel like they failed at it, or I missed all these expenses. Oh, hi, Tanisha. Thank you for joining. Yes, anyone else want to add some comments or talk about their experiences with budgeting?
Can I say, ma'am?
Sure, yeah, go ahead.
So, like being an international student, this struggle I have been facing, like as you said, for budgeting, due to a variety of challenges, I can say, like unrealistic financial goals we have, such as living expenses, which makes it hard to stick to a budget.
Hmm.
Like additionally, we fails to track our daily expenses, which often leads us to over spending. Then when it comes, because in our initial days, which I have faced in my initial days, which I was failing to track everything, like how my daily expenses will going on, which was often leading me to over spending, especially for the cost, like when you see
Mm.
academic materials, you can say my for so and so things, so which was like I was overspending, I can say. So such frequent challenges I was facing, then you can also say that for me it was difficult to balance for something like this, balancing everything. Then when it comes to saving, which was I was not doing effectively, though I was like my parents were sending, then I have to keep it for my sem fees. Then I was like, then I need to save, which was like hard for me to save. Here the prices, which I was not knowing, but back in my country it was like highly expensive and all. So I was like, that was all my unforeseen situations, you can say. Then yeah, that is the reason, because we go through a lot of challenges, then we can't
Mhm.
track, which makes us like rent, tuition, then lifestyle, which was making me less effective, and managing over time was difficult for me. So I can say that unrealistic goals, or these pitfalls was there, but eventually we can get used to it. And now I can do that by seeing your post and all. That gives me a lot of strength, then I can plan it accordingly. So thank you so very much.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome. And I love that. And yeah, it's real because you're a student, so you're on even more of a fixed income, right? Until you start working professionally. It's even more important for you. And
Yeah, because in the starting, no jobs, nothing. Right now also I'm a full-time student, so no job, nothing and all, which I'm actively looking. So no jobs, nothing, then handling it, then keeping the track everything. You need to know everything, then plus fees, this thing, that thing. So a lot of things, but we can get to it.
yeah, I love that.
That is
Thank
what
you.
I say, that we girls have extra power, extra strength. I feel I realized this at the night time, when I go to my bed and keep my phone, everything apart, away from me, and I just think what I did my day was better than yesterday. Then I feel like I have grown up. Like it's a better day than yesterday. So I keep competition by myself. Like yesterday I was this, Shasta, you was lazy in this task, and today you did this task. So yeah, it keeps me moving on forward, and that's the reason I say we girls. People usually say boys this, no, but we girls are more stronger than any creature in this world. I firmly believe this.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for sharing. That's amazing. And I also like how you mentioned about tracking every single dollar and purchase. I sometimes hear people disagree with that. They want to do something looser with like buckets and percentages, but there's power in tracking every single Red Bull drink, Starbucks. It starts
Correct,
to add
correct.
up. And some people, what's interesting is also the reflection part. You can kind of understand what's your weaknesses. Are you the type of person who goes crazy at the dollar store or these small purchases, or is it like, you're very restrictive and then all of a sudden you build up and you got to buy that like designer purse or shoes and that's the other reason why it's so transformative to track your expenses, to reflect back because you understand your nature, right? You understand how you spend, maybe what's your areas, and like I said, some people it's like they like the big fancy purchases. Some people it's like, they'll $20 themselves to death, right? All these little small purchases and all that. Well, I want to open it up to the questions and hear from some of y'all. Do y'all have any questions about budgeting? Or, you can definitely share some of your thoughts or concerns.
So hi, you may have shared, I was having issues logging into Zoom, so I missed like the first part of the discussion, but are there any tools that you recommend, good budgeting tools to use to get started? Because I've been doing it old-fashioned with an Excel spreadsheet, and I'm like, I'm so busy right now. It's just so hard to have time to, go back to my
Yeah.
laptop and yeah, and take a look at it and stay on top of it.
Yes, yes, I do have a couple of recommendations and I can definitely sympathize. I know what you mean. It's great to lay out a budget in software, but or paper, but the problem is the tracking kind of gets tedious, right? Because you got to input everything in Excel and it will sum it up and all that. But I found the same thing as you. I've
Hmm.
switched to using apps. So one app I recommend is called Every Dollar. There is a free account you can create on there. Some of the caveats is, like you mentioned, your time is important, right? And opening it up. So the problem with EveryDollar is you're going to have to input every transaction if you have the free account. If you do
Okay.
upgrade and do the premium, it will link to your bank account and bring in the transactions. But then there's the other issue of you got to categorize the transactions. So some people don't realize that they buy the premium and they're like, they want to open it up and it's all magically sorted and it doesn't do that. It's intentional about you have to like drag it over. It's kind of fun though in the app. You kind of drag it over the bubbles. And then there's an option I'm currently using right now, but I have been an Every Dollar user for a long time of the free version and the premium account. I'm using a software now called Monarch Money, and the difference with that one is it does the categorization that we're talking about Every Dollar won't do. So Monarch Money is a little bit more like, I call it like a quicken of budgeting. And the other thing I like about Monarch Money is it's more of a dashboard view. So it shows you your investments. It shows me a little more than just the budgeting, right? So it shows you your investments. It links all your accounts. And it learns over time if you categorize them properly to put them in the right, categories for you. So I do open it up daily, but I do more of a check of how my budget's doing instead of the dragging or putting in transactions and all that. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. But by the way, does anyone else have any recommendations of different software or apps they like to use? I've also heard of Copilot. And the only reason why I cannot do it myself is because I don't have an Apple phone. So if you're an Android person, you cannot use Copilot. But if you're an Apple
Oh my
person,
God. I'm also an Android girl. I'm not an iPhone girl.
oh, okay. Copilot is nice. I looked at it. It's very pretty. I think it's very reminiscent of Monarch Money. People are nuts about Copilot, but you got to be an Apple person. So I'm not an Apple person. Like I said, I'm not really biased. I play with all different types of apps and software. Another famous one, a lot of people bring up and mention YNAB. You need a budget. I think it's a little complicated personally for my preferences, but some people really love it. YNAB is good about, how do I explain it? I call it kind of like budgeting by bank account balance, like linking exactly to your bank account balance. I'm not a big fan of that. I think once you actually kind of master budgeting, not that you never look at your bank account, but you're not trying to manage your money by how much money is left in your bank account, right? Because that's also a crutch for some people, especially if they have the tendency to just spend money that's sitting in a bank account because they see money sitting there. What if you have a bill that's due tomorrow? You shouldn't be spending all your money in the bank account all the time, right? Yeah.
Ma'am, I'm having one more question for you. Like,
Sure.
can you please say me, like, how should I stay motivated to stick to my budget? Especially when I'm also feeling on the side that I'm sacrificing too much.
Yeah. No, that is a really, really good question. And
Yes.
you have to think about your why, right? So something deeper than just, I'm trying to save 500. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with having financial goals that are tied to a dollar figure. But think about the deeper thing. Is it like, you know, you want to go to Switzerland with your friends, or you want to buy that first house in like 5 years after you start working. And when you have these bigger, deeper goals, you're kind of thinking, well, should I get the takeout now or the snacks now, or do I want to get that house in 5 years? It's kind of switching from that short term to a bit of more of that longer term thinking, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So maybe, journaling, thinking about it. And like I said, everyone's reason's different and it's never a bad or silly reason, right? It could be like you want to do, you want to have this big blowout wedding for whenever you get married. And that's a big goal that you're saving towards. But tying it to these dreams and goals that you have, because the human side of everyone is the short term. We just think about just the short term. We only think about now, and that's like most humans.
Right. Everybody says just live in the present. Then what about our future, man? Who nobody thinks. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
yeah.
yeah, it happens, but yeah. But that's a nice thing, like you said, as you said, yeah. So let me switch my point of view to that way.
Yeah, some longer term things that you want and what are you going to do in life and how that money, because see, when we talk about this money, this margin and all the budgeting, the money is not just the money, it's tied to these things that you want, right? This life that you want, whether it's, you want to work part-time one day or you want to be a stay-at-home mom or you want to buy that house. Once you start tying those money goals more to that, I think it makes it more tangible than just, oh, I want to save $20,000.
Correct. Then see, now this thing also happens in our day-to-day life that like what should I do if my expenses exceed my budget? Like 1 month I'm gonna have this thing. Then the other month it might exceed. Then at the time what?
Oh, well, if you don't have any money in savings, I mean, you might have to look into just ways you can temporarily increase income. Ideally, you want to kind of budget. If so, like you're talking
No, no,
about,
no.
oh,
No, no, no. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I'm not saying that I'm not having money in my expense, like I'm having in my savings, but my aim for this month was this much, okay, a certain budget I'm saying. But if it exceeds more than that, so what should I do at that time?
oh, so you're saying your expenses this month exceed your income, but it's not every single month. Sometimes it does.
No, sometimes it happens. So how should I stick to that plan? Like, no, this is only your budget.
Oh, okay. Okay. Well, let's talk about some tactical tips that might work for some people. Definitely revisiting the budget, and it's kind of you're gonna have to tell yourself no or pull from other categories, right? So you're gonna have to make decisions about that if you can't increase income, right? That's one way, but it's not always easy, especially as college student, to
Right.
increase your income. So you're going to have to decrease expenses, but the thing is being more proactive throughout the month so you can course correct. Because if you wait till the end of the month and you're like, oh, I spent $900 in takeout and I only wanted to spend 200, it's too late. You already ate the food, right? There's nothing you can do about it.
Right, right.
It's
That's
being more
correct.
proactive throughout the month, reflecting, course correcting, and being intentional and deciding. But yeah, yeah, and it has to be a realistic budget. Hopefully, it's not just like a income problem, but just also cash envelopes. That's another thing I was going to suggest. Some people, it
Mhm.
works for them to physically handle the cash, especially for certain categories you overspend in. So definitely try this out, but
Okay.
it doesn't work for everybody. You might try it out for a
Right.
category that you always overspend in. Don't do it for a regular bill. Don't do it for like electricity or gas or something. It might
Oh,
just be
no,
like
no, no.
eating out. So it's like if that's your weakness you always overspend in. You might do
No,
a
my weakness is I overspend in my shoes, my attires, my dresses. I'm crazy girl, I can't control it that time. Sometimes I feel like, Shaisa, today you're not gonna eat this, but on the other side, I'll be like, I can wear this. So I'm a crazy girl for my shoes, for my dresses.
Oh, well then for you, you might have to definitely have like a clothing, shoe, like line item in your budget and you got to stick to
Right,
that.
right. I'm gonna do that.
Yeah, yeah, thanks. So
Mhm.
that's a really good question.
So I have another question, because I'm in my 40s and so I've been working for a while. But I was wondering, like, are there any like rules of thumb, like maybe based upon like age group in terms of like how much should be saving versus like investing? Because I'm just kind of struggling with like, okay, I have a surplus. I've just been like
Okay.
putting it into a savings account, but then now I'm like, okay, maybe I should start investing some of that. I don't know. I was just curious if there's like any information around that, or do you have any
Oh
recommendations?
yeah, I mean, real rough guideline, and of course, great resources. Look into the Dave Ramsey baby steps. Tons of free content online, Ramsey Show, and all that. But for the investing piece, because it sounds like you're at the point where you have excess, you don't maybe have so much debt and all that. If that's true,
Right. Yeah.
then the investing is 15% of your household income before taxes. But if you want even like maybe more accurate numbers, I would definitely maybe talk to like a financial advisor and kind of see, because you don't have to reveal your numbers here on a call, but
Hmm.
I don't
Right.
know how you're faring with that. But for most people, it's 15% better. Yeah, that's a
For
good
investing.
guideline
And
for how
then,
much to invest.
okay, well, then what about savings? Or is there a number, a
Oh,
ballpark for like
okay,
savings?
sorry, I left that part out. If you don't have savings built up, hopefully maybe you do, but
Hmm.
you
Yeah.
want to have 3 to 6 months of living expenses, not income, what it takes for you to live off of. That's what the other reason why budgeting is really important, because you would understand like, oh, 1 month is a 4K month for living expenses.
Hmm.
I'm just making up numbers. So you have to decide where you are on that 3 to 6 month spectrum, and you would have that money saved up, set aside separate from checking that you do not touch except for an emergency.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So
Okay.
that's a good guideline. So like I can't give you a real number, but it's like that's kind of how you
Right.
would kind of calculate and figure that out. And there's no hard or fast on the 3 to 6 months. It's like, it's your security level, what helps you sleep at night, right?
Hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. Oh, Mega.
Hi, ma'am. So my question is regarding inflation or rising cost. So how to handle uh, the inflation or the rising cost and when they impact like the budget?
Oh, of anything specific that's concerning you? Is it just groceries or living expenses or what?
Um, Sometimes groceries or yeah, living expenses like lifestyle, anything.
Yeah, I think everyone's feeling it. That's a great question. I will say this, if you have not tried this, I challenge everyone to try this out at least once. Try going to the grocery store with a list and try shopping from just a list of groceries. I kind of call the grocery list, it's kind of like your budget, but for your food, right? So you have a plan for your food. You're actually making a list off food that you can actually make meals off of, right? Not just food you feel like eating or stuff that's on sale or there's coupons. You're walking around the grocery store hungry. So try that, definitely for groceries. And, there's not a whole lot, like we can't control the prices of what some restaurant charges, right? I can't control property taxes and all that. But one thing I do like to emphasize about the budgeting is you're controlling what you can control. You're controlling, your income, your money that you have coming in, and other prices and things will fluctuate. But this is the part of our lives that we can control. You can't control housing prices necessarily, but once you kind of gain control of your finances, I swear you do have much more control over everything else. Even in a world where it feels like, oh, things are going up, everything costs more and all that. And yeah, I hope that answers that.
Yes, ma'am. Sure. Thank you
Was-
so much. And
yeah.
are there any like resources or books that can help deepen my understanding
Of
of
inflation
budgeting or
specifically or budgeting or
budgeting, budget like personal finance?
oh yes, 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 yes. One of my big recommendations, the Total Money Makeover. That's the class and book that changed my life. And Ramsey Show, tons and tons of hours, free content online. They do 3 hours of shows Monday through Friday, every single day. So get into that if you want just like free resources. But yeah, as we're ending, I want to send all of y'all a free resource that I created around budgeting to hopefully get y'all started in the habit of budgeting wherever you're at, or reinforce the habit, or whatever, you know. I don't want to presume no one's ever done it. I think a lot of people have tried, sometimes maybe have given up, but it's definitely something worth implementing in your life. And I also offer one-on-one financial coaching for anyone who wants more specific help with learning the budgeting and all that. But I do intend, I have not started it yet, but in the future, I do want to do an online budgeting course, and just about budgeting, not just all of personal finance, just breaking down budgeting and walking through it. So kind of like a group class, and I plan to start that in March. But you don't have to take advantage of any of that. If you got anything out of this, and hopefully it inspires you, I'm excited about that too. I'm not saying you can't do it on your own also, but I hope that regardless of however you get the information or guidance and all that, that you do take it seriously and look into it. But anything else as we're ending? We only have a few more minutes left unless anyone else wants to hang out online a little bit. But yeah, I'd love to hear from you. Oh, thank you. And thank you for joining. Do y'all feel motivated to go out and do it, or start again, or figure it out?
Yes, I feel very encouraged. So thank you.
Good, good, good. And I don't know if you missed it, but yeah, it's definitely a struggle, but it's something worth plugging away and keep trying to do. And I just don't feel, how do I say, dumb if you're not mastering it. It was hard for me too. Okay. Well, thank you, everyone. And I will follow up. I'll send you, I'm going to try to send the recording too. I'll send the recording and that guide I was talking about. And then, like I said, if you want to take me up on the things I was mentioning, if not, it's okay. I hope you got some value out of this. I do intend to do a free monthly webinar every single month. I don't know if I'll do the same topic. I might rotate and change topics. I don't know. I mean, does anyone have any thoughts about that? You're the ones that actually attended. Is there an interest in maybe a different type of topic? I had some in mind, but I want to hear from y'all.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. I would definitely participate.
Okay, like one of them I think I was thinking about doing was just like how to open a Roth IRA, you know.
Oh yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, I get a lot of questions about it. I was thinking like, oh, that might be a fun thing to just kind of break it down, and of course this is more like people opening it up on their own, which I'm fine with. You can do that, but just oh, thank you. Thank you everyone, and thank you so much for joining. And everyone have a great evening. And then if we're not connected on LinkedIn, please connect on LinkedIn if you want to. But yes, I'll be advertising for the next webinar in February. And like I said, I'm probably going to rotate and change the topic. So it's not going to be like this exact same one every single time. I'm not going to always talk about budgeting. But thank you again for your attention. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.